Om Purnamada, the Aprakrita Lord who is in the unmanifest state in this reality. Now, an interesting point is that for us it's unmanifest, but for Krishna it's not unmanifest. For Krishna, what's more real is his reality there. So for us it seems abstract and this seems concrete, but in reality that is more concrete and this is more abstract. For Krishna, for Vishnu, this material universe is the dream. He's just laying on the causal ocean, infinite universes pouring in and out of his pores. And each of those universes just like, it's like a bubble of foam appearing on the surface of the causal ocean for a second and then popping. So it's described like the bubble of foam appears on the surface of the ocean, of the causal ocean, stays for a while, which is ending up being 433 trillion years or 311 trillion years, and then evaporates. And then begins again. And that's just like a dream for him. It's the abstract reality. For him, his reality is concrete. And yet, for us, that reality is abstract or unmanifest, aprakrita. But ultimately, from his perspective, it's one. Whether he appears in his dham in this world, it's perfect and complete. Or if he's performing his pastimes in that dham, it's perfect and complete. From the perspective of Krishna, it's all perfect and complete. Even this reality has qualities of him. And that's also we can tie into the fractal theory as well. If you think about the idea of the fractals, that there's the transcendental universes that are infinitely repeating. Not only that, but they're infinitely numerous. There's infinite spiritual realms, and within the atoms of one of those spiritual realms, there's potential for millions of universes to be contained within one of those. So the idea is that when it appears in this world, it has to take some of the nature of the original. That's why in the scriptures it says, and this is another argument for the Lord having sagun qualities. He has transcendental qualities. Because it's said in scripture that, even in the Bible and the Quran, Gurudev quotes this in his books, even The Way of Love, Gurudev says, it is said in the Bible that God made man from his own image. So some similarity must be there. That's why we're described to be qualitatively one with God, meaning we have the same essential nature because we're the son of the Father. The sum of the quality of the Father must be in us. So that's the idea of the infinitesimal consciousness being qualitatively one with the infinite consciousness. God makes man out of his own image. And the Quran also says that. In the Islamic scriptures it says, Gurudev quotes this many times, in Allah kalaka me suratihi, which means from in Allah, kalaka me, the forms of man are resembling the resemblances of that original being. So you can use the fractal theory also as that, because the phenomenal world itself, it's inverted reflections of that original being or that original realm in an inverted way, because like the example is given of a tree on the bank of a river, and the tree reflected in the river is inverted, and it's less you could say it's less real, it's less dynamic. I like to give the example of the tree on the side of the river. You can get shade by sitting underneath it. You can use its wood to build a house. You can make a fire. If you go into the reflection, you cannot pick a fruit from the reflection in the water. The tree on the so the tree, if you think of the real reality, the real concrete realm is God's transcendental realm. That is the Paravyom. The real spiritual realm is like the tree on the bank of the river. And that's why in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, this material universe is like a tree with its branches and leaves and twigs downward and its roots up. That's because it's a reflection. If you see a reflection in the water, that's why if you see a reflection, the roots, then will start from the roots in the reflection and then go down, right? So in the Tattva, Jiva Goswami describes that, for example, from the Param Satya, the supreme absolute truth, you can think of it as the supreme source of all luminance, the supreme sun, the supreme sun of spiritual being. From that you have its photon rays, which is like Shakti Tattva. Then you have the reflections of light, which is like Jiva Tattva, and then you have darkness. And also, there's different ways it's described. But what is like the reflection, Jiva Tattva, or darkness, Maya Tattva. But if you look in water, you see like basically it's the shadow existence. Now because it's the shadow of the complete, it also has complete nature. It's complete in and of itself. That's why even the material universe there's infinite iterations of it. Like how, like if we use the theory of like even that example of Krishna appearing in universes, right? Prabhupada says on Janmashtami that we should not think Janmashtami is one point in time or every year. Prabhupada himself says you should understand that every paramanu, which is every 60,750th of a second, every 60,750th of a second, Krishna is appearing in another universe. So that's the span of time it takes light, a photon, to cross over the breadth of one atom at the speed of light. So at that, every moment of that time, and that's happening every 4 billion or so years. So every 60,000th of a second, Krishna is appearing in a universe, but in the scale of time of that universe, 4 billion years are passing. And that's happening, and therefore, since the time we've started talking about 30 minutes, Krishna's appeared tens of millions of times and performed his pastimes, liberating, destroying the demons, liberating the devotees, giving them bhakti, bringing them to his own dham. So that's kind of the scale of it. But the material creation, because it comes from him, it also has completeness. But tam bhajam nirguno bhavet. We are trapped in the shadow reality, and therefore we're suffering in this reality because we are divorced from our true universal source. We've turned away from it. We've become Krishna Bahirmukh. Our consciousness is turned into the shadow, into the darkness. That's what Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes. Krishna Bahirmukh. When the consciousness of the jiva becomes antagonistic towards bhakti, then it turns away from the light, turns into the shadow. So if you're with your face turned away from the light, then your own mass the light reflecting off your own mass is going to cause a shadow, and your consciousness is absorbed in that shadow existence. So that's where we are now. We are absorbed in the shadow existence where we are trying to be happy, but because it's a reflection, because it's a shadow, we're searching for substance in it, unable to find it, so we're therefore suffering. So Krishna himself says, tam bhajam, by meditating on me, absorbing the mind in me, you will become nirguno bhavet. You will become nirgun.